Hey guys, welcome back to RHR Jen. I'm so glad you're here. Honk honk, everyone. Guys, do you see this happy face? There's a reason. It's because I'm joined by John Witherspoon. Hi, John. How are
Hi,
you?
Jim. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I have to pay you a compliment, and it does pain me to do this, but
Uh-oh.
you're wearing blue. Nice
Oh,
blue.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
do I match your background?
You do match my background. I'm impressed. It's good. You dressed for my set. Yes. No, you look fantastic. I have to ask the same question as always. Is it Ralph Lauren?
Oh, it is. Well, yes.
There it is. It's Ralph Lauren. If you guys are new here, John and I both share an affinity for Ralph Lauren. John brings out the fancy stuff. He reminded me before that my Ralph Lauren is slumming it, basically.
It's kind of, yeah, Lauren is a little mid, I have to say.
Excuse me. I believe this is Lauren. I think it's pretty good.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, I didn't. Now you tell me.
I just got told again. I've been told a couple times recently, Jen, you wear a lot of evening wear. I'm like, now I'm wearing running shorts with this, so it's not exactly evening wear. But no, I love all the Ralph Lauren stuff, and I know you seem to be a fan as well. But you look great. I'm glad you wore blue.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. So, guys, if you're new here, John is somebody I like to have on, and we talk through all things Harry and Meghan. And so we have a list of topics that we keep going, and we're going to hit some of the highlights and lowlights of Harry and Meghan. Now, John, I usually this is when I would plug his channel or whatever's going on, but John's not quite there yet. I keep pressuring him to start a channel. Anything you want to discuss there or not yet?
Not yet. It's close. It's very close.
Okay. Well, let us know, and we'll of course flock on over your channel and fully support when you're ready.
That would be great.
John, remind everybody, what are you thinking you'll do the channel on? Are you still working that out?
Well, so many people have questions about Washington, D.C. and what there is to do here and pitfalls and things to definitely see. And so I think I'm going to start out just doing that because I get so many questions about it. And it seems, it's a really interesting city. There's no question about that. And a lot of people just want to know more about it. I grew up here and I was actually born here, which is a subject of great confusion on my passport when people there are people who are born in Washington, D.C. There are hospitals here. It's not just the government and the Congress and everything else. So you can live in the city and you can be born at a hospital in the city, but that's lost on. I've had several immigration officers overseas in South Africa and elsewhere. It's like, how is it possible? How are you? It says you're born in Washington, D.C. How is that possible? It's like, well, it's a thing. We do exist.
That's right.
So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Wow. Well, I look forward to that, though. That's exciting. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure. So much to see. I'm dying to go. It's definitely very high on my list of places to see. So
that's great. Well, we like our visitors.
Yeah, that's good. But in the meantime, tell us. So we'd like to support you online, though. You do have Instagram, right? And it's Witherspoon DC. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. Witherspoon DC. Yeah, okay. And when I start the YouTube channel, I'll put an announcement there. So if you want to be sure and see it, then just subscribe to that channel to that Instagram page, and I'll put up a notice there. Definitely.
Perfect. Yay. We look forward to that. And then we've seen you a lot. You've been busy lately. You've been covering as I call it, the Duffy, and a poor typo, the Diddy, the one who shall not be named trial. Yeah. I know you've been on other channels talking about that. I honestly cannot watch that stuff. It's too dark. I don't know. How's that going? Just reporting on it. It's really dark.
Well, there's some awful stuff going on that they're talking about. And that's one of the, I don't know. Sometimes being a lawyer is kind of like being a doctor. You have to deal with stuff that you would probably just as soon not have to deal with. And you have to say words that you really would prefer not to say. And especially when there's been some depraved sounding behavior that has taken place. And there's a ton of that stuff in the Diddy trial and the evidence. People who've probably seen the video of Cassie Ventura in the hallway at the hotel in Los Angeles. That was on CNN, and that video has been played a ton of times in this trial.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of, it can get depressing after a while because it really represents a not so great side of humanity and a not so great side of people's behavior. And it's just unfortunate that people have to sit there. I feel bad for the jurors. The jurors have actually, in that case, have actually seen stuff that has not even been available for the people sitting in the courtroom to view. They have put up a screen and showed things to the jurors only because the content is so graphic that they don't want the people in the audience to be able to see it. It's really incredible.
Oh my goodness gracious. And I just can't watch that. So it gets too graphic for me, but where is that trial taking place? I'm not even aware. I'm not even sure.
It's in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York State,
Gotcha.
Which happens to be in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the jurors are drawn from that part of Southern New York, Manhattan, and who knows, the Bronx and Westchester County, and it could be, in Long Island, it could be anywhere in that area that people are coming from. Mm-hmm. So the jury mix could actually be very affluent. It could also be very working class. You just don't know. I believe there are 8 men and 4 women on the jury.
Gotcha. If you happen to have lived closer to that, is that one that you would have liked to have, I don't know, sat in the courtroom through it all, or not so much on that one?
Well, here's the problem. That trial is getting every bit the amount of attention that the Johnny Depp trial got when it was here. The Johnny Depp trial was in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is a very affluent area. I didn't think twice about spending the night on the sidewalk, falling asleep in a beach chair or folding chair on the sidewalk outside the courthouse. In that part of New York City, mm-hmm. all bets are off. You don't know what you're going to encounter there.
Sure.
So the idea of spending the night on the sidewalk in New York at 3 or 4 in the morning, major cause for concern.
Yeah.
And I had actually considered going up there, and then I started reading about the kinds of things that are going on right now, and I just thought I would love to go, but just not going to work. Plus the fact, and to get a hotel room up there, you're talking about hundreds of. New York is New York and London, some of the most expensive hotel rooms in the world. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows it, and you just have to deal with it. The tax on a hotel room in New York City is enormous. Mm-hmm. So it just didn't work for a lot of reasons, in spite of how great it would have been to be there.
Yeah, I just wondered. So all that aside, that is something you would have liked to have sat. You would have sat in there, minus all the logistics.
Yeah, probably. It would have been very, very interesting. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just the body language. I understand there's been some very interesting body language that Sean Combs / P. Diddy has.
Duffy.
Yeah, Duffy has engaged in, and making facial expressions, and members of his family being there and so forth. That the whole business is very, 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 very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Well, thanks. Yeah, I just wondered about that. We hadn't discussed that, so I was just curious about
that.
But I know you've been on other creators' channels talking about that. That's interesting.
I have. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so as you flockers may or may not know, John and I a lot of times will talk Harry and Meghan just behind the scenes. If something weird pops up, we kind of keep an ongoing talking point list. And so what I like to do is just kind of hit some of our talking points in no particular order. We'll kind of talk through some of the stuff that you and I have been talking about offline and kind of elaborate on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start off on a fun note because it's one of my favorite things that we talked about. And that is would your point was, would the celeb make a good guest on the Muppet Show? So you thought that William and Catherine would be great on the Muppet Show. And if you guys know, you probably know, I'm a huge fan of the Muppets. I love it. I get such a kick out of it. So I thought this was such a fun question. So talk to me about William and Catherine on the Muppet Show, and talk to me about Harry and Meghan on the Muppet Show. But before you do, you should know I pulled you and I as Muppets. You ready? You don't know that this was coming.
Okay.
Here you are.
Oh, thank you.
I think you've made this face at me before.
That looks more like Harry than me, I have to say.
So there's you, and here's me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is that Janice?
Yes.
Yeah, Janice is great.
She smiles big, and her eyes get small when she smiles.
But, you know, Jen, she's not super bright, I don't think, either. Do you really want to go down there?
Well, you know what? She's happy. I'll take it. It's fine.
Yeah, she has a good time. We all need a little more Janice in our life.
That's right. But I'm laughing because my eyes go small when I smile, so I might be Janice.
Oh, okay. That's funny. I like that.
And you have made this face at me before. I'm just saying.
Well, and you deserved it, I'm sure. I don't remember exactly when, but I'm sure you had it coming.
Probably. Okay, so back to the original question, which was, first of all,
yeah, was there a question? I forgot. Yeah.
What would William and Catherine be like as guests on the Muppet Show?
Well, you know, you think about the if you've ever watched the reruns of the Muppets, and I'm sure most of us have, but you know, the people that they had on there, like Elton John and you know, this whole huge list of people and A-list celebrities, and yet not taking themselves too seriously. Just, you know, you're sitting there, you're talking to a piece of felt with a hand. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is
you?
Well, on a certain level, you know, you really have to kind of get into a suspension of disbelief mindset where it's like, okay, I am actually talking to a real person.
There you go.
Exactly. So anyway, I think William and Catherine would be fantastic on the Muppet Show. I think they both could maintain a level of seriousness and yet have fun with it at the same time.
I think so too.
Harry and Meghan?
No.
I don't know. Put in the comments if you disagree, but I mean, I just kind of, first of all, what would they talk about? There's nothing compelling for either of them to talk about.
How unfair life is. I don't know.
With Miss Piggy or Fozzie Bear, or, you know, there's nothing. Right, with Beaker or Dr. Bunsen or Honeydew. Yeah. Talk with any of those characters about anything that would be remotely interesting. and then again, it reminded me of when Nancy Kerrigan did well, the ice skater did well at the Olympics, and then she was invited to ride in a parade at one of the Disney parks. And I think she was sitting next to Mickey Mouse, and she's complaining the whole time about how dumb the whole thing was.
This is so cheesy. That's what she kept saying. Like, she'd smile big and be saying, "This is so pathetic," and stuff. It's
right. So I just think of that type of, I just can't imagine either Harry or Meghan having any fun whatsoever, riding in a Disney parade next to Mickey Mouse, going on the Muppet Show and doing something silly without losing their dignity. That's the real trick, obviously, is to have a good time without looking like you're offended or you're hating or this is all too cool for you. Yes. I think William and Catherine would do swimmingly, would do wonderfully.
I think so too.
And I think everybody would love it, especially Catherine. I think Catherine would be fantastic.
Fantastic, yes.
As a guest on the Muppet Show.
I think so too. It reminds me of when she was invited to read a bedtime story for CBeebies, and which is a kids program. And she just introduced herself as Catherine, and she sat down and read a story when Meghan did some sort of child story, she read her own book. She introduced herself as Duchess of Sussex. And it's just like, do you think that kids care about this? Do you think that they're not here for that? They're here to hear what happens in the book, not.
That's right.
So
well,
I just think she wouldn't be able to drop the pretense. So
yes, and what's interesting too, I still remember vividly when I was a little kid, my mom used to take me down to the local public library, and they had the adult books upstairs, and the whole bottom area was like they had a little meeting room and so forth, and then the other half of the downstairs was the children's area. And there was a lady there who was a librarian. She was this older lady, and I think she'd been a librarian there for, I don't know, 50 years or whatever. But when she would sit down to read a story and you would take your kids down, it's like 3:00 on Friday. Okay, be here. Mrs. So-and-so is going to read a story. All right, fine. Great. Parents are thrilled. Mom is thrilled that the kids' attention will be occupied by something other than the television.
That's right.
For an hour at 3:00 on Friday. Anyway, this lady would sit down in the chair with all these little rugrats sitting around, and she would just go. It was like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. Just she would just, and all the little kids would be like,
"Aw, cute."
It was amazing. She just was one of those people that had that ability. Catherine, I can totally see having that ability, the exact same thing.
Yes.
That the kids would just be magnetically attracted to her face and her eyes. Mm-hmm. I would never see that with Meghan. I cannot anticipate Meghan being able to do that. And I think what you're talking about, that story where she was reading to little kids, mm-hmm. and they were, person's reading and they're like,
yeah.
Ooh, there's a mosquito. Ooh,
right.
Ooh. You know how little kids are.
Yeah.
I just cannot. She just does not have the ability to attract the attention and hold the attention of little kids in the way that Catherine would, or in the way that you would if you were watching Catherine on the Muppet Show or whatever it is. So, Princess Catherine, if you're watching,
that's right.
Tell your staff, mm-hmm. get you on the Muppet Show, please.
Oh,
you can take Elton John with you if you want.
That's
the two of you would have a lot of fun, I'm sure.
That's right. But I think kids can sense, I always say kids and dogs, they can sense a genuineness, and there just seems to be a genuineness to Catherine. And you have many times pointed out, and I actually gave you a shout out in a video recently because it came back up again, how you pointed out that Meghan starts off at this like intense that's not genuine, versus most people just start off like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Oh, this person, that
yes.
person. And then it comes to life as you get to know somebody, versus she's just over the top. And it just reads as false and too much. So
right.
I think kids can see through that. So
yes.
But yeah, I agree. I think it'd be fun. I think William and Catherine have shown they can go for the lighthearted stuff. Some of my favorite moments with them are like when they're in a pub pouring a pint, something like that. And they just kind of go back and forth and don't take themselves too seriously.
Yes. And you see that in the public events that William does. We were talking the other day about Tom Cruise. There was an event, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, where it was a benefit event for the Royal something Air Rescue Ambulance mm-hmm. service. And William was there because he obviously used to be a medevac helicopter pilot. Mm-hmm. And Tom Cruise was there not only because he's a pilot, but because he wanted to lend his presence to the cause and so forth. And you could just tell William was having the best time with all this meeting and greeting and smiling and everything else and joking around. And then he stood up to give a speech, and he was deadly serious. Like, look, we're talking about life-saving work here. This is not frivolous. This is, mm-hmm. Expensive machinery, life-saving work, dangerous, all this stuff. And he was immediately able to switch gears like that in a way that I would not see Harry being able to do.
You're right. I think you're spot on. You're right. No, you're absolutely right. Going back to Harry and Meghan, I just made some notes I was going to read, which was they have joyless earnestness, thin-skinned drama magnets. They're stiff and they give off this weird self-conscious vibe. None of this would gel with the Muppets whatsoever. They're a
No.
vortex for controversy. And I just truly don't think they have a sense of humor. Maybe buried deep, Harry did at one point, but it's been browbeaten or whatever the term is out of him. So I think that's gone.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time anyway. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Like that. Yeah. Ugh, no, thanks. No, thank you on that. Okay, so the next point that we had talked about offline is there are different types of therapy and therapists. And you were talking about how there are types that will leave you breadcrumbs to figure things out on your own, or the types where you tell your story and they'll say things like, oh, it sounds like you're on the right track, or what are you doing? This is madness. What are your thoughts on this? And you tied it back into Harry. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, I'm not an expert in the field, but I have been in therapy what I think was what were legitimate reasons at the time, and have found it enormously useful. And I think the best kind of therapy is the kind that is not only helping you to get out of whatever bad place you feel like you're in, but it's almost a life coaching thing as well. And that was kind of the point that I was making about the people just sort of broadening out the message that they're trying to deliver to you, that the therapist is trying to convey to you. And I have been in both types of therapeutic environments, and the type where, as you indicated, they just drop little breadcrumbs here and there, and they just, when you figure out the first one, then they give you the second one, and they just keep pulling you along piece by piece. And then there are other people, which, I mean, to each his or her own, but there are other people, other types of therapists who will just say flat out, and I'm assuming that they base this on your ability to take it, but people will just say, what are you doing? What are you doing? You are so far headed in the wrong direction. You got to just stop this right now. This is madness. Mm-hmm. And when Harry talks about being in therapy, in my opinion, whatever therapy he's getting is not working.
Yeah.
And the BBC interview was a great example of how it's not working, because he is still fighting battles that he should have just written off years ago. And I mean, the business about his mother being a prime example, and he's still fighting the British press and all of this kind of stuff. And yet, as I think we've mentioned before, he doesn't, he claims to be trying to save the world and save children and all this kind of stuff. Okay, well, maybe I've missed it, but I've never heard him talk about the ills of drunk driving, or drink driving for the British members of the audience. I've never heard him talk about wearing seatbelts.
I was going to say seatbelts. You'd think that'd be a big issue for him, Yeah.
Yes. And it just all seems so misguided and confused. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I know we talked about,
misguided and confused. That perfectly sums up Harry. Sorry. That's so him. That's it. Misguided.
Well, I mean, I know we've talked about this as well offline, but every one of us, from almost the moment we're born, has to deal with a constant series of insults and offenses that the world throws our way. Somebody steals your parking space. You get to the store. Oh, the thing I wanted is sold out. Somebody looked at me funny. What I know I don't need to elaborate. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. The garbage men, the bin men, smashed my garbage can and just left it there. And what are you going to do about it? And this is the other thing. And I've said this to people, like these insults and these offenses and these inequities and everything else are going to occur. The question, though, is what are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. How much are you going to fight back against the powers of the universe that invariably conspire against all of us,
right,
on a daily basis? And in some cases, 5 or 6 of these offenses land on our head all in one day. And then you say, okay, well, what else could go wrong today? Oh, well,
challenge accepted. Yeah.
Challenge accepted. Right. You just got a car wash, a bird will poop right on the car, on the windshield, right in front of your eyes where you're trying to look. It's like, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
We've all been there. So without belaboring the point too much, I don't think Harry understands that. And it's especially appalling given that he's been in the military. That's one of the beautiful things about the military, in my opinion. It's also one of the beautiful things about playing on a sports team, is that the referee will miss a call. The coach will say something to you that you didn't care for. Your drill sergeant, your lieutenant, whoever it is going to do something to you that you didn't care for. This is, how do you exist under those conditions that you can't handle that stuff? And again, I think Harry just has never internalized being able to handle those just little insults. And as I said, life is going to bring you those insults, going to bring them right to your doorstep, like room service or DoorDash. Or what was the one what's the one in the UK that he called?
Deliveroo.
Deliveroo, yes.
Yes, I love it when you laugh.
I just have to say, when I first heard Deliveroo, I thought that name would not work in the United States. No. That will work in the UK or maybe Australia.
Australia, that's right. My Australian geese.
Yeah, Deliveroo is not a name that would get traction in the United States in a positive way. It's fine. Don't get me. I don't.
Will you start the company up here and just see how that goes?
I will not. Because first of all, DoorDash beat me to it.
Fair enough.
But anyway, the point being, Harry just does not seem to understand how the world works. And I think that's partially the result of his emotional immaturity. I think it's the result of his upbringing and the sheltered environment that he grew up in. Although William grew up in the same environment, he seems to have done just fine. So, yeah, I just think that that's an interesting talking point as far as Harry is concerned.
I think so too. So the thing that sticks out for me here is just that Harry's stuck in a feedback loop where he justifies his actions without growth, as seen in his repetitive complaints across interviews and these court cases and books and everything. Breadcrumb therapy would be way too slow and subtle for him, I think.
Yes.
Letting him meander without any kind of breakthrough.
Yes.
So I think narrative therapy would amplify his self-pitying story. So you'd have to have some sort of direct, this is madness approach. If he's willing to, I'm going on the assumption that he's willing to listen. I don't think he is, but I think that's the only chance.
Yes, that's a very important aspect of it too. If you don't want to hear what the person has to say,
what's the point of being there?
yes, yes. And there are times also when as I said, I've been in an environment like that, and I just want to say to the person, okay, stop. You can stop beating me over the head. I get it. I don't like what you're saying, but I get it. And you can stop now because it's going to sting me for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And believe me, I'm going to think about what you've told me because it's going to be hard to forget about what you've told me. So, and I think if I had to guess, I would say that something very similar to that happened when he was in court, where it's like, look, we're trying to tell you this is never going to work.
Right.
Well, I want to proceed anyway.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and the other thing I think I was telling you too is, you know, we all need friends who provide that sort of therapeutic support as well. I know people who have been in bad relationships, who have greatly benefited from their friends going to them and saying, that person is your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever it is, that person, or even your boss, that person is poisoning you. You are never going to get resolution for this. You've got to turn the page. Trust me on this. And nobody wants to hear that, but at the same time, you have to hear that once in a while. And I question whether Harry has anybody in his life, number one, that will deliver those kinds of messages, and number two, have him accept those kinds of messages. And I think the other example that we were sort of laughing about was I went to meet a friend recently, and he made a comment about the interior of my car. And he said, when are you going to clean up this pig pen that you're driving around in? And it was partially true. I said, well, I just got a bunch of Amazon packages and these are all the boxes and so forth. And he's like, no, it's not. Clean your damn car out. And I thought, he's a good enough friend that I almost took it without even any offense to it. And he knew that he could say that to me, but he was just like, no, this is not Amazon's fault for dumping boxes on you. It's your fault for not cleaning out your damn car. Go get it done.
But I see that as a true friend. That is a good friend. He's not worried about just kissing your A. He's telling you, John, get your head out of your ass and clean your car. Yeah. And we all need a friend like that. You've had to
absolutely
do that before.
Yes, more than one friend. And we need cousins, and we need aunts and uncles, and we need parents.
That's right.
Yes.
And I think that keeps us grounded and well-rounded, and with the ability to see blind spots that we wouldn't otherwise see. Like, John, your car is a mess. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. By the way, it's pristine right now. I will have you know, lest anybody, it's in fantastic condition. Not a piece of junk not a piece of junk mail, not an Amazon box. Nothing. In fact, that same person was just in my car yesterday. He didn't say a word. So I consider that a victory.
Yeah. The outside, the brown paint is flecking off and it's falling apart, but the inside is beautiful.
Yes. You got it.
It's a Pinto, right?
It's not a Pinto. No. Sorry to disappoint.
Oh, all right. I've been following the wrong car.
Yeah.
So my notes on this one were without blunt, trusted voices to jolt, I think, Harry and Meghan out of their bubble. Not that it would work anyway. They're just going to remain, what's the word? Like entrenched in their patterns and prioritizing image over any kind of introspection. That's just kind of what's on my head. It's defensiveness over growth. And again, I mean, I consider you a friend for whatever reason, but you've had to do this for me on the channel. I've bounced things off you and you're like, pull your head out of your ass. What are you doing? And thank God you do, because I just can't see it. And I get stuck in my own head. So I think somebody like them will just never learn. So they're going to be stuck in this pattern and never grow from it.
That's right. And most people, even in the absence of someone, again, banging them over the head and saying, you need to XYZ. Even in the absence of that, I think a lot of people would figure out on their own. It's like, I keep losing and losing and losing and hitting a brick wall and hitting a brick wall.
Mhm.
What is the common element to all of these frustrations?
That's it.
And at some point you would say, it's me. It's me. And I remember, I often think of Harry in the context of the kids that I went to school with that used to get picked on a lot because they were hot-tempered. And I hate to say, a number of them had red hair.
I'm laughing because I dye mine, but mine's actually a little bit kind of red.
Okay, well, I'll keep a distance then. No, but there were some of these kids who were the perpetual butt of all the jokes and everything else. There were several cases where they came back from summer break, and it wasn't long until the picking on and making fun of and all that stuff started up again. And they had totally changed their style of reacting to it. And it was like, again, the ocean, the clouds parted, the ocean parted, and all of a sudden it's not a problem anymore. Because they realized the common denominator in this person, this person, this person, this person, all giving me a hard time is me. Yeah. So I'm going to do something different to try and keep that from happening. And it did not take a lot for those people to change their worldview and how they were going to react. Harry really, I don't think, has ever gone through a transformation like that.
No, I don't think so either. I think he could have the best team of advisors around him, and I just don't think you could make that dude listen. I just don't.
No, I agree. Well, didn't he even say in the book, in Spare, that he didn't, if I'm recalling correctly, this is just from recollection, but I think it was that book where he said he did not like flight school because his flight instructor was always telling him what to do.
What
Make
did you
that
think
make sense?
Happened? That's right. That sounds like something my elementary age child would say. And it's like, you just tell your kid, that's what they do. That's what you're there to learn.
Yes.
My teacher kept making me do stuff.
Yes. Okay. Right. And I remember, I have a high school teacher. Actually, he is retiring this year, and he was a fantastic teacher. But when he started back in the day, when I was in high school, and he was a math teacher, he had just gotten out of the United States Navy, and he had just gotten off a nuclear submarine. And then he decided he wanted to teach school.
Wow.
Good for him. I remember coming home after the first week of school, and my dad, the usual dinner table talk about, well, how do you like your teachers? And, blah, blah, blah. What does Mr. So-and-so seem like? And he asked me about this particular math teacher. And I said, he is very rigid in the way that he manages the classroom. Unusually rigid, even relative to the other teachers during the first week of school. And my dad's response was, is this the man that just got off the nuclear submarine? I said, yes. And my dad's response to that was, you had better just suck it up and deal with it, because if he ever softens up, it's not going to be anytime soon. So you had better just adjust your expectations accordingly and keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, follow whatever rules he set out for how he wants the classroom to run. Do your homework, hand it in on time, ask intelligent questions, and just work yourself through it, because you're just not going to be able to fight the system on this one. He's the guy that's going to give you a grade at the end of the semester.
Mm-hmm.
So you better just deal with it. He's absolutely right, of course. But again, a great life lesson,
mm-hmm.
akin to some of the life lessons that Harry apparently never learned.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Again, the sports team coach does not, the juniors and the seniors who have been on the team for 3 or 4 years do not care about your view of how the team should operate
mm-hmm.
when you first get there. The police officer who has told you that you were driving too fast does not care about your view of him or his profession or any of that stuff. There's a time and a place for that called traffic court. Or, again, and the basketball team referee is not interested in your perspective on his ability to referee basketball games.
True. Yeah.
Again, I think those lessons are lost on Harry, and especially bizarre given that Harry was in the military.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. Yep, I think so. Since we're talking, Harry, you had brought up that you thought it was worth just discussing a little bit further about the courts and appeals and how misguided Harry was with his appeal and how it would unfold. Do you care to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. And I think that's a really important point. And before I went to law school, I was ignorant about how this all worked. And I suspect Harry is especially ignorant of how it all worked in light of some of the comments that he has made. Mm-hmm. If you go to court, and again, we have to remember there are, as is the case in the US, in the UK, it's the same thing, with a few minor exceptions, which we won't get into, but you have the entry-level court, which is in the US, it's called the district court, and then you have the Court of Appeals, and then you have basically, for all intents and purposes, the Supreme Court. Okay. If you lose at the district court level, which is where Harry lost the first time, mm-hmm. you have an absolute right to appeal to the Court of Appeals. They have to take your appeal. Okay. If you lose at the appellate court level, at the appeals court level, and you want to go to the Supreme Court, you cannot make that appeal as a matter of right as you did going from the lowest court to the middle court.
Okay.
To get into the Supreme Court, you have to ask permission. And invariably, they are going to say no, unless you have a case that is of enormous legal precedent, mm-hmm. that they feel like, okay, we got to get this straightened out because there's too much confusion on this, and we're going to listen to this and make a ruling on it because otherwise just too much chaos going on. Or if there's a question, for instance, like in the United States, a question of a constitutional level of importance, for instance, in the United States, a Second Amendment question. How are we going to reconcile what someone did and what the law says and what the US Constitution says about gun ownership or gun use or whatever it is? Those are the types of questions that will get to the Supreme Court. Okay. When Harry went from the lowest court to the appeals court, mm-hmm. one of the things that you normally have to do once you get to the appeals court is, if you want to have a persuasive argument for the appeals court judges, you have to point out that there is a mistake that has been made at the lower court level. Either the judge messed up something, or the judge misinterpreted something, or somehow something happened that you were deprived of the level of justice that you were entitled to down at the lowest court level. It is not a case, which I think is where Harry's mindset was, that you can go to the appeals court, you can introduce all these new facts and all these new pieces of evidence and so forth, and you can also say, well, I was really unhappy with the way that the lower court ruled on my case. For one thing, when you get to the appeals court level, you cannot introduce new evidence.
Okay.
A lot of people don't understand that. the appeals court is going to look at the record, basically the transcript of what was talked about at the district court, at the lowest court level. And the only reason that the lawyer is going to stand up or be allowed to stand up at the appeals court level is going to be, excuse me.
Sure.
Is going to be to clarify things that took place at the lower court level and that are on the transcript that the appeals court judges do not understand or they want clarity on or whatever it is. You cannot stand up at the appeals court level and talk about a whole bunch of new stuff, new facts, new this, new that, the other thing. And you also cannot just stand up there and say, and I think this is kind of what happened in Harry's case in the UK. You cannot just stand up and say, you know what, I think this is so unfair. I think this is a ripoff, and the law is wrong, and this is wrong, and that's wrong, and it's not fair to me, and I have a special set of circumstances because I'm the second son of the king, and on and on and on. And you basically heard the judges, when they read the decision at the appeals court level, the judge who read the decision basically said as much. It's like, look, we hear you. You're in pain of some sort. You're very disappointed. But we don't have the ability to provide relief to you based on your level of personal discomfort or dissatisfaction with what happened at the district court. You have not told us anything that makes us want to either A, reverse the decision of the judge down at the district court, or B, tell the district court judge to redecide this case with a different emphasis on different parts of the arguments and so forth. I don't think Harry has any comprehension of that. And one of the key giveaways was that when he sat down for that awful BBC interview that he did, by the way, in what appears to be a very impulsive manner, without having given himself an opportunity to marinate on the decision and to think about what happened and to talk to his lawyer and let it, it's like they say, if you really want to write a letter, you should write it, put it in the drawer for 24 hours and then pull it out and reread it. I just did that the other day. Thank goodness. When I read it the second time, I was so grateful. I thought, oh, this is awful. Awful what I wrote. You spelled my
name wrong in the letter? Is that what it
was? Yes. I spelled I spelled your name with a PH.
That's right.
Instead of an F.
That's right.
But anyway, you get my point.
I do. Yeah, that's smart.
He does not seem to have done that by the time he sat down for that BBC interview. And then he had the gall in the BBC interview to say, well, I wish someone had told me that things might go to hell like this, or what. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. And you just think, are you nuts? Do you read a newspaper? Every newspaper in the world said that this was going to be a disaster. Right. The judge, the lower court judge basically telegraphed that to you. The whole world knew this was going to not only not work for you, but it was also going to cost you a boatload of money.
There's no way his attorneys didn't tell him either.
No.
There's no way.
No.
My opinion.
And I guarantee you that he had in his mind that this was going to be a fight worth fighting because he was doing God's work in terms of himself, or the universe will make things right. And as we talked about a few minutes ago, no, the universe will mess with you in the worst possible way. And you just have to deal with it. And he just could not do that. I wish someone had told me that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
This is the same guy writing in crayon that his brother got bigger sausages for breakfast than he did. So the idea that he would see any sense of, reality.
So the appellate court is not a fresh start. It's not a total do-over. It's not just, oh, I'm not happy with what happened. It sucked. I want it. Maybe that guy at the district court level was having a bad day, or he had a bias. No, had a bias. No, none of that. Absolutely none of that. You have to specifically say that judge screwed up because he prevented me, or she prevented me from saying something that made this case turn out the wrong way, or he allowed something in that made this case turn out the wrong way, or he misinterpreted the law, he misread it. Great, have at it. That's what the appeals court is for. But it is not for, oh, well, I was very dissatisfied.
That's right. It's
No,
not
no one
customer
cares.
service or customer complaints line. Yeah.
Yes, I want to speak to your manager. That's basically what he did. I want to, or he tells the police officer, I want to speak to your sergeant or your lieutenant or your supervisor. And they just roll their eyes and say, all right, well, how long can you wait? That stuff never, ever works. But that's what he did. That's what he did.
Right. So switching gears off that, we have Meghan. The next point we had talked about is Meghan being very thin-skinned and unable to receive or process information, which is something I talk about quite a bit. It's something I see. I mean, that's something I picked up on her, just all of it, her Netflix show and now her podcast part 2. It's the same thing over and over. She cannot receive or process information. She was refusing to learn. She's dismissing any criticism as haters. And also she's refusing to admit there's any kind of opportunity to learn from anybody else, just as we've been saying. What are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. I think that is a common thread through both Harry and especially Meghan.
Yeah.
Meghan is creating content that is receiving specific feedback in the form of the analytics. Who is watching this? How long are they watching it? What comments are they leaving? What people, if any, are beating down the door to be my next guest?
Yeah.
I know, Jen, you and I talk. I mean, when you and I do videos like this, I'm always curious. I always read the comments, and invariably they're, they're very nice, and I appreciate that, very positive. And you tell me about, the analytics of how long people are watching and when do they start and stop and all that kind of thing. And I'm just intellectually curious about that, along with being interested in learning and what can I do differently in any number of different ways, and including things like, the picture behind you isn't straight. It's all in there, and it's all good food for thought.
Yeah.
It's all good food for thought. And to the extent that there are negative comments, I make a conscious calculation of, okay, well, is that person just trying to yank my chain, or is that person actually telling me something that I can learn from?
That's true.
Because we all have blind spots.
Yeah.
So it amazes me that Meghan does not get a message. I mean, if I was in Meghan's shoes and a major media executive said that I was an effing grifter in public, who among us would not be absolutely horrified and want to dig a hole and get in it?
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
And yet to have that out in the wild, and then to go on and engage in further behavior that very likely only serves to reinforce what that person, that media executive, said about you.
That's right.
And then also to talk about yourself so much. I mean, this is the number one comment that everybody has made about her current podcast and everything else. It's all about her. Everybody knows more than they would like to know about her.
That's right.
And this notion of, oh, well, we're going to learn and glean this information from these guests. No, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And Meghan herself could show some intellectual curiosity about what these people are saying. And I think any of us who have listened to her podcast have in our head that she's not really interested in learning, and she's not interested in her audience learning. She is just interested in engaging her guest in a way that allows her to, it's like playing tennis. She serves the ball over the net, the ball comes back. She's not interested in having a volley. She is interested in scoring that point immediately. It's not a game of how many times can we hit the ball back and forth over the court, over the net, on the court. It is, I want to score as many points as I can.
Yeah.
And have all those benefits accrue to me, not to the other person, not to the audience. It's all about me. And we've talked about that many, many times. That comes up in many aspects of Meghan's existence.
You're exactly right. And then
you almost said it. You almost said it. Say it. Say it.
You're bang on.
No, that's not good enough.
Oh, you're right. I almost said it. You're spot on, John.
Thank you.
Only because you wore blue am I going to give that to you.
It was worth it.
Oh, geez. See, I had a good thought. Now it flew out of my head. Hold on. No, she will. She will only have on people, though, that fit her formula. She will never take an interview where she doesn't know the questions. She will only have on people that will kiss her the entire time and never bring any kind of challenge to her. It's just, again, it's the whole world revolves around Meghan. And so how do you learn from that? You don't. How do you grow from that? You don't. And how do you ever have an interesting conversation with that? You don't. So,
yeah.
You're
You're absolutely right. And
you almost said I'm spot on.
No, I did not. No.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. No. I caught myself. I thought of it and I caught myself before I said it.
Wait, watch the screen. You almost said it. Go ahead. Wait, now you're becoming this. Hold on. There you are.
Yeah, right.
You almost said it. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Anyway, part of the problem is that people know that, and they think to themselves when they make their calculation of, oh, well, should I accept the invitation to be a guest on Meghan's show or not? I'm sure that they're all sitting there thinking,
yeah,
this isn't gonna do me any good, because it'll be less about me than it is about Meghan. And not only that, the audience has figured this out. There's no audience.
Yeah.
Talk about the red light flashing right in front of you. How many episodes was it? 2 or 3 episodes where she had fallen out of the top 200?
It was by the second episode, I believe. Yeah.
I mean, it's not just all the haters. It is people saying, I have things to do with my time and I don't want Meghan's podcast to be among them.
Yeah. Well, I'm the idiot that's watching it still. I'm the one idiot that's still watching it. And I want to say that at some point it gets better. It doesn't. It gets worse. Every week it gets worse.
Well, you have to assume she led with her strongest guest. I mean, it's same thing with the cooking show.
Yeah.
You had to assume she put her best foot forward.
No.
So
yeah. Train wreck.
I can't wait for the second season.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. Well, good, because I'm having you back to discuss that with me. So you're going to watch it and react to it with me.
Well, if I haven't choked on edible ground up flowers before then, yeah.
Right. That's where all your money's going. You just can't stop buying edible flowers.
That's right. I wish I could get more, but I just watched somebody this morning. They were talking about how long has it been since she sold out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a way to kill your customer base.
That's right. Absolutely. And
I mean, can you imagine, when was the last time you were in the grocery store
this morning
and you looked for something and it was sold out, and you went to the person that works in the store and said, I really want some whatever, but it's sold out. The shelf is empty.
Mm-hmm.
The truck will be here the day after tomorrow. Sure. We will put that back on the shelf first thing because you want it, and we know some other people want it too. Mm-hmm. So be here at 10 o'clock day after tomorrow, and it'll be there for you. And in fact, if you really want it, here, write down your name and phone number, and when it comes in, how many boxes of that do you want? Mm-hmm. I'll pull some out. You come and see me. I'll be here, and I'll make sure, this is the way the world works.
That's true.
Under normal circumstances. Mm-hmm. But not at...
Well, it's funny.
They should call it whenever.
I was at the store this morning and that exact same thing happened to me. I said, I have this guest on later. He's so obnoxious. I need earplugs. And they were like, oh, ma'am, we can help you.
Right.
Just write your number down.
Yeah, right. Right. But it's been, incredible.
I don't think that screams that there's a huge demand for her products, because you were telling me if you have 1 million people waiting to get their hands on your stuff, I heard it, that you wouldn't prioritize getting more things back in stock. It just doesn't seem to be a priority. To me, it's like, Go ahead. I
was just going to say, and I don't know what might have been Kinsey. I forget what YouTuber mentioned this, but why would you not develop a waiting list?
Exactly.
And that way you would know how many people want this honey, how many people want your
red flowers,
your dandelion tea, or whatever it is that you're selling. Mm-hmm. And you would have an estimation of how much to have your supplier mm-hmm. generate.
Right.
But what a waste. How much raspberry sputum, right, whatever they call it. How much of that stuff should we make for the next round? Mm-hmm. She hasn't done that. It's just incredible.
Guys, this was the end of part 1 of my sit down with John Witherspoon. There's still so much more to come, including the Harry and the Ring doorbell fiasco and more bad decisions from the two of them. I can't wait for you to see it. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Do make sure you're subscribed as I'm pushing to the 200,000 mark. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Leave John your wonderful comments. He loves to see them, and I love to forward them to him. He's great. And make sure you check out my second channel. Of course, that is Goose Adventures. I've just lost nearly 140 pounds, and I'm detailing what I did and how I did it over there. You can see it at Goose Adventure. You can see my before and after. So if you're least bit interested in weight loss and a supportive flock, find me over there. But in the meantime, check back for more of my sit down with John Witherspoon. And a huge thank you to John for your time, your kindness, your wonderful energy, and answers to all my questions. Guys, thanks for being here. I can't wait to bring you more stuff like this. I hope you have the best day. Honk, honk, everyone. Bye-bye.